It's time to get serious and to go deep into the archives. Welcome everyone to another episode of the Mere Martels podcast. I'm your host here, Karen, live on the 25th of June 2026. And remember the date, remember the time, because this is the time that I am doing something different. I found something really cool that I want to talk to you about. But before I jump into the project, I guess, or the artwork, the artist, I wanted to just meditate a little bit on time. I've been thinking about time a lot recently, and in particular, where I've been spending mine, not in this like grand artistic abstract sense of what is time or the philosophical aspect of it, much more practical. What am I doing with my time? Where am I spending it? I guess you could say, money is a various form of time as well. Time is money. So where am I spending my money as well? And is it worthwhile? Are they in places where 5 to 10 years time, I can look back and go, that was a really good use of what you had at the moment? Because there's certainly aspects and areas of my life where I can look back and go like, you know what? Maybe I did the best at the time with what I had, but man, I could have done some things a little bit differently, and perhaps not appreciating and really being able to capture what I'm feeling at the moment, what I'm interested in, what I'm collecting. And I wanted to find kind of better ways of doing this, but I guess just talking about time, there's this aspect of collecting for me, which is about patience, is really about, I want to spend, there's kind of like, I don't like hype. I don't like jumping and diving into things when everyone else is at the same time. Like, it can be fun, but it's usually a poor decision in terms of, do I actually really, really enjoy this? And is this actually really, really worthwhile of getting into? Or am I just excited because everyone else is excited? Nothing particularly wrong with that, but it's certainly something where you can go back and be like, oh, I did feel the FOMO then, and oh, I perhaps did spend a bit too much money on, or attention on time on things which I actually don't really care about, So I've been spending more time thinking about time, and that's why I really enjoy kind of like putting bids out on things as well, just letting it simmer for a while, just hanging out, chilling. I read something from, I can't remember if it was 6529 or Cosmo Medici, who are pretty big art NFT collectors, and I find their insights valuable. And they were talking about how, like, when a one of one, or when something that you really enjoy comes up, you have to snag it immediately. It has to be like a no-brainer. Don't even think about the price in a certain sense. And I was wondering, like, is that the same for like low-end things, for example? Because I don't have millions of dollars to chuck on JPEGs. But I certainly do have, hundreds or thousands. And I was thinking, like, is that how I should behave when I find something that I really enjoy? I think this is perhaps like somewhat applicable in a certain sense, but also just, I do see the value in not rushing at things. So if something comes up, like, just chilling out for a bit, putting your feelers out, chuck a bit on it, lowball them, see what happens. I was reading this book here recently, Get the Picture by Bianca Bosca, because I wanted to know more about art in the sense of like the culture and the underlyings, the inner workings, perhaps, of the art world, so to speak. And this is much more in the traditional sense of sculptures, paintings, abstract visual art, almost all visual. She doesn't really talk about music at all in the book. She's based in New York, and she's a journalist, and she kind of dives into that world. If you want the full kind of book review, I've done a book review on the book reviews channel. But one of the things I took away from it was, there's ways of collecting which are somewhat more, I would call, like the gross side of things, where you're interacting with people who they make it intentionally difficult. They're kind of pretentious. They'll demean you if you don't enjoy certain things, or if you do enjoy certain things, that you'll have like collectors who are demanding crazy discounts because it's like, I'm so fancy, and if you want to be like well known, your art going into my collection is like a boost for you. Of gallerists not showing their prices, where they've got these kind of like random websites where it's super difficult to actually interact, and where you can kind of get shamed for asking about prices, where they will intentionally not have their galleries on the bottom floor or level for people to just wander in. They only want people who know where to find it, and even then they'll make it difficult in a certain sense, which I find very strange. It was very strange reading about that in her book. And then also the opposite side, which was thankfully much more refreshing, of people who are super passionate, who would not necessarily follow the rules, but spend their time collecting things because they like to collect, or they like to support artists and things like this. So there's this kind of like dichotomy, I guess, between maybe not dichotomy, but ways of participating in a certain subgenre, and this could be anything related to like football playing, to art, to joining a gym, starting a business, all these sorts of things, where it really is about the types of people that you're interacting with. And after spending the last 4 months creating a new Twitter profile, following kind of like artists and NFT related people, I found very much there's like the flipper, get me on the allow list when type people, and then a lot more of the kind of like cool, perhaps unknown and cool, I find it cool, people who are creating works because they're drawn to it, they're passionate about it, and they need to, and people, collectors who are similar to that. And it was like, I want to stick myself firmly in the camp and spend my time and my energy and my money in that camp. And so I guess there's a long-winded way of saying, I think I found that. I think I found the project which I want to spend a lot more time on. I wasn't here for the early days of NFTs and being able to buy X copy for $20. I wasn't here for the days of art blocks, initial release of the Chromie Squiggles, of CryptoPunks, or anything like that. But I found something that I think is probably in the future going to be kind of equivalent to that, or at least I feel that it has the underpinnings of what made all of those so interesting, so spectacular. And it's because it's the type of people who are interested in it. So let's jump into today's kind of project, I guess you'd call it, but it's an artwork, it's a participatory thing that I want to spend my time on. So jumping over to here, let me introduce you to Stephen. So Stephen Santoro, helping artists build careers in contemporary and blockchain art. He's got I believe that's a virtual gallery, Virtue Fine Art. Actually, no, it isn't, because it's more like pop culture as well, but with generative art. So it obviously transfers over into the digital realm. We also, I don't know kind of how I found him, but this is why I particularly created, a new Twitter account, fresh, with zero interactions with other people, starting off with just a couple of randoms, and then I let the algorithm send me stuff, and then I decided to filter and sort that based on my own tastes. So I found him, and I heard about this thing called the vessel, which he's got here, and he's talking about, I had a vision and I pursued it tirelessly for the past year. I had no idea if it was possible, if it would work, or if anyone would care. I just needed to see it to come to life. So he taught himself how to code and started with the studio and the vessel. And so this was released on March 3rd, very close to my birthday. And I wasn't there for the initial starting. I think I only heard about this probably in April or May. But I was kind of like just drawn into it. I'm like, I should check this out. I want to see it. So there's a Twitter page for that as well. You can join the Discord. And I think it was joining the Discord that helped me, where I'm like, these people are cool. Like I'm always a lurker. I don't don't enjoy texting and writing per se. I much more prefer like the audio medium for communicating with people, whether that be in person or even in this somewhat one-way channel that I've got going on right now. A conceptual experiment in unique fungibility. And so if you go onto the vessel.fun, check out this manifesto page, talks about the origin. And essentially it's talking about, who are the people, what about the people who are passively participating, who were part of all of these, things which over time have come to represent deep parts of people's personality, how they think about themselves, how they view themselves in a certain extent. And you can see the types of things on here. I mentioned the squiggles. That's an X copy over there. There's CryptoPunks, penguins. That's from Coldy, Opapen, Bored Apes. Is that portraits? I'm not sure. Obviously Sam Spratz. There's a whole big, chunk of these. And all of these were things where most of them were, I was like, this is the kind of stuff that I wish I was part of, that I wish I was there at the start. And I feel like I found that kind of here. So it talks about the purpose of the vessel, which is to be able to interact with anyone, the layperson, to interact, store, present present day meaning with little to no constraints. I'm not a coder. I don't know how to interact with the Ethereum blockchain. I wouldn't know how to create a token, nor an NFT, nor anything like that. But the building blocks are there. A lot of art is built upon technology, innovation, and then it getting to the point where someone else can jump into it. I certainly don't consider myself an artist. If you've read more into my background, I'm an engineer. I'm more of a numbers and math guy. But I certainly do appreciate it. I wouldn't call myself creative, but probably like higher in the openness to experience. And when I started diving into this, I'm like, oh shit, there's actually quite a lot here that I need to dive into. And I'd definitely recommend checking out the manifesto as a whole to dive into. If we jump over to what it actually is, so if you go over to the claim page here, it's a grid of 100 by 100, I guess you'd call them vessels, or I don't know if the terminology, mini parts of the vessel. Each of these going from 1 byte to, and then if you scroll over to the top of this row, is to it'd be to 99, I imagine, over here, or 100, and then it starts again going from 101 to 200, and then there's 100 rows down. So of course this would end up in being 10,000 in total. Once again, the kind of the mathematical side of me is instantly going like, ooh, I kind of like this. You can see the grid here. It's based on in the lower left hand side of what has been claimed and what hasn't been claimed. The prices related to these are based on how many bytes. And so if you jump over to one of the cheaper one here, let's go to 681. There's 681 bytes in this, and I can store whatever I would like into this in terms of characters. So, this is 681. Make sure I don't hit any hotkeys like I did before. Or you can craft a picture from this as well, because pictures just made from simple bytes. So 681, the price is tied to that. So zooming in, 681 would require 681.0681 ETH to mint. At the current price, if I jump over to this screen here, what is 0.00681? I missed a number there, 0.00681. That's about 16 Australian dollars at this current moment. So very accessible. And then obviously the prices go all the way much higher up to these lower ones, higher ones. So hence why there's so many more over here, all the way up to 0.1 ETH. The one you can grab at the moment is 0.09998. So if you wanted to jump into that as well, 9998, that's 234 Australian. So once again, pricey for some people. For other people, it would be a drop in the bucket. Still accessible for like most kind of lay people, at least in the West. For people who have disposable money to spend on art and collecting. And so I jumped into this and I grabbed a couple different ones. If you go over to the assembly, for example, and I've connected the Mere Mortals podcast.eth here, you can see I collected capsule 312 here. And what it shows is a grid of numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, probably getting close to like 20-ish. And then it's probably down to about 20 as well. It's not a perfectly even square, is it, at the moment for this? I can't remember. But anyway, you can see at the bottom here that there are some grids which were inaccessible for me. And what you can do with this is obviously just draw things here. It's a grayscale concept, so you can create visual texture and differentiations with all of this, with different gradients, reflections, checkerboard, invert that, clear it, make it for yourself with dithering it, crafting it for yourself. What I love about this site in particular is that it is easily accessible for myself. I think they mentioned in the manifesto, like, there's nothing particular about this site which is necessary for the project to continue. I believe it's all on chain, and so you would just need to be able to access it. It's kind of like self-custody. You need the fundamental aspect of being able to do self-custody yourself, but if you want other people to handle your money because, for XYZ reason you can't, or are unwilling to, then that's totally fine. It's just having the aspect of being able to, you need that necessarily foundation block. So for someone like myself, it's awesome that I could, create or craft something or ask someone else to create something for me so that I could interact with it. But because it's here, I'll definitely use it. There's aspects to this where you can see there's different numbers. The red, blue, and greens relate to capsules, vaults, and machines. If you dive further into the manifesto, it talks about what each of these are, and then also navigators, stewards, or merchants, what type of person, how you want to be known for, I guess, in this certain extent. Navigators being experiment with creation, programming, and discovery. Stewards on preservation, advocacy, and cultural continuity. Merchants providing liquidity, speculation, and momentum. I would probably describe myself more as the steward, focusing on the preservation, advocacy, cultural continuity. So when I jump over to here and I'm actually doing something, I'll certainly make sure that I click steward, and that I'm confirming myself to be doing that. If you go over to the assembly, like I mentioned, you can craft these, and if you want to see what everyone has crafted, vessel.worldcomputer.art/grid, you can start to see like this is filling up, and even though most of this top row has been filled out, not everything has actually been entered into, and you can see people starting to craft their own versions of what they wanted to kind of preserve and showcase. And this is where this sort of thing is what gets me really excited. There's a couple of different things that I feel this project does, which is so kind of like memetic, so irresistible. I talked about this in a podcast episode with my friend Juan recently. For those who don't know, there was this kind of like viral moment called the $1 Million homepage. This was a 1,000 pixel by 1,000 pixel grid I think I'm going to say like 2004-ish, maybe it was even the late 90s. And basically this guy was selling pixels in this grid on this homepage for $1 a pixel. And so obviously it started off as a very blank grid, and people could post things or buy a pixel or pixels, and they would showcase whatever they wanted to put into there. Obviously at the time, it was very limited. You could upload probably just like a JPEG, a PNG file, maybe SVG, and advertisers really got into it. And so you can see most of it here is about like free hosting of websites, online casinos, women pixels, related to business and entrepreneurship. There was a dating site here. Recruiters wanted, I think there was stuff related to like pizzas, memes. It attracted a lot of attention, especially when it started gaining momentum. And I think it was one of the first aspects where you could see, obviously this is what I would call the more grosser side of things, which is advertising. I hate advertising. I think it ruins a lot of industries. But there was this aspect of like, this is very interesting, and it's a cultural like icon, this thing. If you dive into this, it's great because it showcases link rot, for example. Most of these websites don't exist anymore. They just 404, or they go to like some random domain. Let's try this one here, engineseeker.com. Let's see if that's still online. I probably need to delete that and to do that. I think so, yeah. So if I go to engineseeker.com/lander, is this still the thing? No, now it's parked free, courtesy of GoDaddy. So you can kind of see with the X402, there was another project called X402 wall or page or something like this a couple of months ago. I was really interested in it. I think it lacked some of the depth of what I was looking for. It didn't, and it was probably a lot more short-termy and I'm not going to say scammy, but people who were just like trying to recreate a viral moment and didn't have the staying power. But I love the idea of it. I loved the ability for anyone to come claim and have like this cultural moment to preserve something. This $1 million homepage is still fascinating. Like, you could spend a lot of time diving into like, what were people interested in at the time? What are they selling here? Like, what in the early days of the internet, what was important, And so this whole concept here is similar, but this was just like some random guy. It very much relied on this guy keeping up his homepage. It relied, I don't think you could switch your pixels once you'd already put them in, maybe. But there was certainly like no ownership. You could stamp your mark, but you didn't have an ownership of this. The vessel is, the same concept, but applied with NFTs. Like, it's it's a fucking no-brainer. I love the pricing mechanism of this as well, where it is accessible for anyone who is early to jump in, and I still think it's early, like $20 for a pixel. I was thinking of things like, okay, what I should try and do is so it's no, it doesn't necessarily need to be displayed as like 100 by 100 grid. I think that makes the most sense. Obviously, you could do it by a 10 by 1,000 grid, but this is probably humans tend to gravitate towards symmetry. We love that, and partners, for example, we find that more attractive. Same thing, like in nature, for a certain aspect, we will enjoy symmetry. And so I would love to do kind of what, like, I can see a couple of people have already started doing some similar things here, where they perhaps created like an intentional grid here for themselves to be able to create something a bit more like visually popping out of. I wouldn't say anyone's really done that yet, so maybe I'll be one of the first to really dive into and like attempt that to do that. Some people have actually managed to put colors in here. That's something I need to figure out how to do. And obviously this takes like a little bit of coordination and thinking. So if you go over to the claim page, for example, I mean, you can kind of see it here where if I jump down, I could get a 3x3 grid here going across these these areas here. And, 4x4, if you jump into like the middle of the vessel, you'll be able to get much larger ones. If I zoom out for a little bit, for example, you'd be able to craft a pretty easily like 10x10 area here, which I think could be cool. I hope it doesn't turn into advertising, but that's people get to preserve whatever they wanted to preserve in here. So I wouldn't be surprised, for example, if that did actually end up being the case. What I love about this is like it's going to take a while. It's going to take a long ass time. But there's going to be all of these milestones. There was this thing on Cardano. It was like a meme coin, which I found really refreshing. I thought it was cool because it was pretty much one of the only honest ones, which was like, this is a rug. We will rug you. This has no value. And it was kind of like up front and center. It was called Hosky. And they had this 420 NFT collection. And it just lasted. It took like a year and a bit to finally like mint out. But it would go through these stages where people would, be interested in it. And then a number would come up like, oh shit, like number 100,000's coming up. Or and it was a much more sequential thing. This one is obviously you can jump in with whatever number you want, but numerology is huge. Doing the podcast for the past couple of years, I realized how important numerology is to people in terms of what they're attracted to, what they enjoy. Where we were asking, our model has always been for donations, for example. Like as I mentioned, I dislike advertising, sponsorships, things like that. So I would always just ask, like, if you got any value from this show, please return it back. And so people would send in donations, and we were doing this via podcasting 2.0, which was essentially using the Lightning Network with Bitcoin related to my RSS feed. So for those who don't know how podcasts work, I own an RSS feed, which is where I put in the data related to my audio files, the actual audio file itself, but also the descriptions, the taglines, who the author was, the link to where to get the audio file. And then podcast apps, who anyone can create one, finds this RSS feed and ingests it and goes like, okay, here's how I can display it. And so I was able to put in like a Bitcoin Lightning wallet address in there, and people would send numbers to us. And when I was first doing this, I was like, okay, like how do you explain getting donations from people? Like, what do you ask for? Like a number? Do you ask now the value for value model, which is what I was doing, worked entirely on like send whatever value you got to us, and it didn't even have to be necessarily money. There's many ways of providing value. For example, I hope I'm providing some value to the vessel by showcasing this, of reacting to it, exploring it, explaining it to people. And the numerology was huge. When Juan had a baby, for example, we started asking for 3838 boosts. And because if you turn the calculator over, that would be Bebe, B-E-B-E. And people would send it through. They'll send through 8008, a boob boost. They would send through, 1111. Americans like to do, what's the 1773? I don't know, the founding date of America, wherever that was. People would send in birthday numbers. They would send in rows of twos because they kind of look like ducks or swans, and so that would be like a duck boost. This is exactly that, man. Like being able to dive into your, for example, I'm sure you can actually go into this and see already. Like I haven't seen this beforehand, but I would be shocked and horrified if the 1337 has not been claimed yet. Yeah, here we go. You can see it immediately. Of course, someone's claimed delete. I'm sure people have, 1948, like, I got to get that one. And I got to get that soon because that's my favorite book of all time, 1948 by George Orwell. There's so many ways and reasons you can find for collecting certain numbers in here, which I think is just awesome. All up, I think it was somewhere around like 52, 55 ETH if you collected them all together. Part of me, we're at, let's see, 9,020 are still available, so 980 have been claimed so far. Part of me was really tempted to go like, what if I just sweeped all the way up until like 1,000, which would probably cost, I don't know, about 2 ETH or something. That's kind of the level of conviction I have in terms of like what I would want or what I'd be willing to spend on this. It's probably around that. But I've always had this trouble with sweeping things. It just feels kind of like gross. I like being a lot more particular. I also like taking my time. Finding that 1948 there is, that's a nice one. If you're watching the stream now and you want to snipe me to it, feel free to. But it'd be, that's kind of a dick move, So there was that aspect to it. There's like the grand narratives and visualizations. So there's a lot you can create with this. If you go to visualizer.thevessel.fun and explore more, it's just a way of showcasing the different types of crafts in here. Like, I think there'd be so many cool things you could do where you could showcase, for example, the empty blocks, and they could be, sitting outside. There's many different ways of, I guess, like exploring this data that people are creating. What are they putting in there? This is somewhat linked to it as well, which is these sequences, which are kind of these countdowns of those 20. This is 25 million blocks there. What I think they typically last for like a couple of weeks, and they're related to how many blocks are being created by the Ethereum blockchain. Once again, I got in way too late to like start collecting these, and these are, this is where it's kind of like semi-curated ways for artists to connect with the grid to create things that are on it. Probably my favorite of these was the number 6. I could play it right now, but I wouldn't be able to capture it in the audio version, so probably not worthwhile doing. But it sounded really cool. Once again, the storage fully on chain. I believe all of these are fully on chain. If I jump through them, yep, looks like it is. And YYG, You Go Girl. This artist has created Sequence 8. I'm probably going to start collecting these going forward, I think. And I might have to try and put some bids out. I believe it's this page is actually quite hard to find the vessel sequences on OpenSea. So it's the-vessel-sequences. I might chuck some bids out there and see if people are willing to accept something that's maybe just slightly above what they minted it for. We'll see. Like I said, I like to take my time with these. I'm not in a huge rush. I think what really grabbed me to this whole kind of project was there's just layers. There's layers upon layers. If you go to where was it here? Diary.worldcomputer.art. This was talking more about what Ugogo, I think, or Wild White, is an agent that is creating and putting. Once again, like I have not had enough time to really dive into all of the individual aspects of this, but I believe they're creating portraits daily. I don't think they get imprinted on the actual portions of the vessel itself. yeah, I don't know. Uh, there's a way for like me as an individual to whisper into capsule 262 to steer what gets written next into it. And some of these capsules, and I haven't done a good job of explaining it because there's like 50 billion different things to talk about, but the red, green, and blues here, the capsules, vaults, and machines, they're different ways of how you can write onto the actual grid itself. So a lot of the greens you see seem to be snapped up a little bit earlier, but there's still plenty that are reasonably cheap. And some of these I believe are like a one-time interaction. You can only interact with it once. Others of them, let's see if I can find it in the manifesto quickly. Don't want to. I've already been talking for a while, so I don't want to go too much longer. I'll come back with that. That's another thing to come back with. I'll perhaps spend some episodes going into more depth onto each particular origin of this, because what I've started to notice with myself is numerology. There was 50,000 and 5,000 bytes in total of squares. So that being it would be 50 ETH, 50.005 ETH to buy up the whole grid. This is kind of like my way of explaining to those who are listening that I'm going to change the show format, I guess. I've enjoyed these aspects where I would talk about what I've learned from collecting in the last, let's just say like 6 months especially, but even probably longer, of collecting art, of interacting with artists, of things that I'm thinking about. I want to change that to a little bit more of my just exploration process in general. So do much larger live streams, like longer ones, where I'm just giving thoughts, perhaps go for like 4 hours, 3-4 hours. And then at the end, maybe just do like a little summary recap and perhaps like another live mint or something like that. I think that's what I want to do going forward. And I certainly want to spend more time showcasing this because I think it's worthwhile. I think there's just something about this which I'm drawn to and want to explain to more people so that more people can get involved, because I think it's just a really unique, interesting idea where your average person can join in, participate, and feel like they're part of a bigger whole, much like people were doing here with the $1 million homepage, much like when people were donating to our podcasts and helping us out in that sense, where they were interacting with the show because we could do it live. We could do all of these different things. We could thank them for their support, and their support, their messages formed part of the show itself. I love this given and back and forth. So this is a long way of just saying, like, I think what I was spending a lot of my time with previously, what's stopping me from doing that right now, is a lot of the behind the scenes things that you never see on the podcasts. It's the creating of thumbnails. It's the writing up of descriptions for episodes, of chapters, of copying and pasting from the here to here. There's so much of this kind of like tedious work to shape this all up. The audio, getting rid of the start, the finish. The same with the live streams. There's a lot that goes into the behind the scenes, which is wearing me down, and I need to fix that. So I'm going to take a little break for a bit. I'm going to be working on my AI agents to help me alleviate a lot of that. That's going to be my goal for at least the next month. This could stretch on for a little bit longer, but I really do want to get back into showcasing these live interactions that I'm doing and showcasing, obviously, the vessel. So that's probably what's going to happen, I guess, in the future. There was a couple of other things I'd recommend. Number one, definitely exploring the vessel, this live stream here. What I would actually maybe also do is there's these so many things I haven't shown here, but like the live aspect of the grid, of what people are doing, whether they're claiming, transferring, setting payloads. There's so much data to be gained into here. the view version. But they've also done these live streams with a bunch of artists. They're up to 25 now, which are all on X, and X is the worst place to consume content. I've come to realize, like, every time I try to listen to things, it cuts out, like the page will like refresh. There's no skipping forward, back, all this sort of things. And so perhaps with the permission of Stephen and Dav, who was also the other Crow creator. Sorry, I didn't mention you earlier, Dav, but both of them together have done that. We'll get into more of their backstory at some point. I perhaps maybe even will do like mini recap episodes and then attach the audio from these if they're cool with that at the end of it, because the people also participating in here, many who've I've talked about Chikai before, with the always has been. I've certainly did over here. Plenty of people here who it's like I've interacted with as well, Lynette, and who I want to interact with more. I would love these conversations to also be further out, other than just the what the fuck is this page here of X? Fuck you, X. Worse. and that's not, like, these are not hanging around. These are not being preserved. That is 100% going away someday. So, if I can capture the audio, that will certainly last a lot longer in my podcast than it will on the X streams. So, okay, that's cool. This was like a grand way of me showcasing the vessel. And I'm going to make a grand, what I think is the ultimate snipe, perhaps, if you want to call it that, of which I think has just gone missed. People it was sitting in front of their face the whole time. They didn't realize what it was. So we have the relics and axioms here, which are much rarer. I forget what the relics are, but they're certainly like loaded, I believe, a bit more to the tail end of this. So there's a lot more of them available. The axioms are square numbers of these. So obviously, one, are they square numbers? Square roots? That doesn't make sense. Yeah, sorry, I've got the it's showcasing the, yeah. So 1, obviously, square root. 2 times 2 is 4. 3 times 3 is 9. And then it would go to, 16, 25, 36, etc., 100, all the way up, hence why there is 100 of these. And I was going like, all right, I got to get one of these at least. This is, my math brain is demanding that I get one. And a lot of the kind of cheaper ones have been snapped up. So probably the cheapest one, I think, is over here, whatever this number is. So whatever the square root of 3249 is. And I was going like, okay, well, what's a good number? What's a number where I would be really like happy to have the square root of? And if you'll just bear with me, I'm just going to disconnect this address. I'm going to connect my fresh minting one where I have some funds available. And I was going, well, I mean, like, I talked about numerology, right? Like the importance of that, the why people like things. I was having a discussion last night, and I was saying, like, if you what is like one of the most like memetic meme numbers that you can have available, and obviously, like, you get things like sixes and sevens, which was pretty recently as a like a viral meme of that kid doing the thing. But like the ultimate one, 420 is pretty close because that's kind of like the weed one. But 69, like 69 is just the best memetic number that there is possible. And I don't even think kids nowadays realize like why 69 is funny, obviously for like the sexual position and then the shape of the numbers, but I don't think they realize that. It's just like 69 is the meme number. What are you talking about, man? And so to my shock and horror, 69 is still available. 4,761 bytes. Like, how outrageous is that? How outrageous is that? So let me just make sure that I'm confirming myself as a steward. So jumping over to here. Yeah, we'll just do slow. There's no rush. And yeah, that's just shocking to me. Like, it's the meme number. How did you guys, like, obviously you can have like the 69 capsule, but and like that's cool and all, but it's not an axiom, you know? That's the main thing. That's like the golden the golden number. So I've set myself as steward now. I don't think I'll put anything in here for the moment. I'm just going to claim it, and then I'll figure out what I want to put in here later. And yeah, so I would highly recommend for those who are interested, check out the vessel. I'm going to be explaining more of this in the, obviously not the coming episodes, which will be on a slight delay, because I really need to work on creating things to make it easier for myself. But I think this is where I want to spend my time. I've got a lot of ideas of how I want to do it. Like I mentioned, I do want to create that grid and create like a picture that's across the grids. I think that would be cool. I was thinking, like, is there a way of immortalizing this very podcast into there? I certainly wouldn't be able to do it in terms of like, it would need a lot of compression. It would need a lot of compression because even like the files for these, the files for audio are 26 to 50 megabytes. If you condense that down into just the pure transcripts, even that's that's getting up into like the thousands. Probably like high, like 1 to 5 megabytes, something like that. There's a way. I'll think of it. But yeah, that's been confirmed. Everyone, you missed out. Like, I'm sorry, I don't know what to tell you, but like you just left that there. That's crazy. That's wild. So that's going to be it for today. So a little bit of a goodbye for the moment, but not forever, not for a super long time. And we'll be coming back stronger than ever, and exploring more digital art, more creations. If you are interested in anything else I'm doing, joining into the Mere Mortals podcasts, we've got a couple of different ones there, where I have my regular one, which I do with my co-host Juan, where we just explore conversational topics, sometimes get guests on for interviews. There's the book reviews, also going on a slight hiatus, but man, there's like 600 there. So if you want to dive into the past catalog, we've got a lot of stuff to dive into. So just join into some of them, say hi, join our Discord, where we just post like little mini updates every now and then. And thanks for joining me. Really do appreciate it. Your time is valuable and you've spent it with me today. So that is very appreciated. And I just do hope you're having a fantastic day wherever you are in the world. Ciao for now. Karen out.